Hello and welcome to Simplified Organization, a show for busy moms who are looking for practical help in managing their homes, families, and lives for God's glory. We keep it real without complaining, and we help women overcome the overwhelm and perfectionism that comes from playing the comparison game. I'm your host, Misty Winkler. I write and podcast at simplyconvivial.com about homemaking, homeschooling, and doing life cheerfully. I'm also the author of the new book, The Convivial Homeschool Gospel Encouragement for Keeping Your Sanity While Living and Learning Alongside Your Kids. Today, I have part 2 of my conversation with Viriginia Lee Rogers. Viriginia Lee lives in northern Colorado with her husband, Cale, and their 5 kids. She is learning alongside her family using the philosophies and methods of Charlotte Mason, striving to be faithful in the daily work, and trying to remember that her job is to spread the feast and pray, trusting that Christ will bring the harvest. Amidst the joyful chaos of her family, you will find her drinking sweet tea, slowly reading through multiple books, fostering for the local Humane Society, and hiking in the Rocky Mountains. In part 1 of our conversation, Viriginia Lee shared about how to handle inevitable irritation in stay-at-home mom life. And today we talk about one of the tactics that she mentioned previously, time budgeting. I think you will appreciate these tips and Viriginia Lee's perspective. So let's dig in. You mentioned making a time budget and having a time budget be a tool for overcoming some irritation or preventing maybe that irritation from happening in the first place. How do you go about making a time budget and then using that in real life?
So I start with a brain dump,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically brain dump everything that I would possibly need to be doing. And for when I'm brain dumping, I'm not thinking in a day or this week. I'm just putting everything there. And I mean everything: sleeping, projects at church, projects for work, projects for the co-op I lead, homeschool, meal. I mean, everything. I just start making a huge list. There's some stuff that's real easy to time budget because it has to happen at certain times. So I just have like a grid basically,
Mm-hmm.
and I write times along the side of it. I put the anchors, like the things that I have no choice about, like they will happen and they will happen at this time. I put those in, and then I do that for like, it depends on how I'm needing to budget, whether it's like a term or a week. I mean, I sort of have to have more than one depending on what kind of projects I have going on, obviously. But we'll just use week as an example because it's less complicated. So then I look, okay, after all those things are in, and then I just start looking at the other things in my brain dump and adding them into the time budget. And when things don't fit, they can't go there.
Right.
So I just have to think through like, okay, then that means I can't do that project this week, or I have to say no to that. But it also shows me, and this is what helps me later down the road, I can say yes to this. It just can't happen until this spot. But what it also shows me, and this is the irritability part, is it shows me that I do have time in the day to do things that aren't interrupted. And I do have very specific times in my daily flow where that will absolutely never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I shouldn't expect it to. So projects are great. I love them, and they can be wonderful things that serve people and bring glory to the Lord, but they're not my kids. And they're not my husband. And so if there is not time, like in the day, like if there are certain parts of the day where I will be interrupted and I know that, then I want to embrace that and have a joyful heart about it, because that means I get to love the people that God gave me. But if I don't see somewhere in the day that I am going to have some non-interrupted time, then I keep trying to put that in places in the day to get things done that might seem appropriate in the moment, but really aren't. And so basically it's just wise stewarding, but more than anything, it's just really a good way to love your people. Because like I say, I'm not a naturally touchy-feely person. I mean, I love my people dearly, but I am not a naturally touchy-feely person. So I do have to make it a priority to be thinking, I actually really do care about what this person's trying to share with me, but they need me to smile at them and they need me to look at them. Um, and so I can do those things well when I know this is time that it's theirs. Later on will be time when I can tell them no. And the nice thing is when you have kids that have interests, they want that time too.
Yeah.
So, then you can nicely as a family be like, great, we're all going to have that time at this part in the day. And they look forward to it also. And then I don't come to them and I'm not like, I want you to put in a load of laundry and unload the dishwasher. And I'm respecting that for them as well. And that's really key with older kids. But I still have little people. And even in my times that are supposed to be uninterrupted, I can tell them, remember, this is mama's time where you're doing this and you're not going to interrupt. But there are some times, even in that time, where I have to remind myself, it doesn't take that long for them to tell me this knock, knock joke. And I can listen to it and I can laugh and I can hug them. And then they are happy. They go, and do their thing again. But if I haven't thought it through ahead of time, then I try to use time that isn't mine to use, that I'm taking from them. And I don't want to do that. And I can't be as calm about it when natural things do happen in the time that's supposed to be uninterrupted, because I've spent so long wanting it and waiting for it and trying to make it happen. That's how I use a time budget for that.
Yeah. It's not about like controlling the time or making everything fit just so, but managing those expectations is a huge part of it. And then it can become a tool of communication with your kids too.
And I have found communication is just key. It doesn't matter how young your kiddos are. Like even a 2-year-old, you need to be communicating with them about those things. It's just so important. It's modeling for them also, that kind of thing. So a time budget makes you be able to do that. And plus it makes you feel sane in the head. Like there's just way less. You're trying to keep track. Everything has a spot.
Yes.
So it's nice to have a quiet mind. A time budget helps with a quiet mind. And that makes you less irritable.
Yeah. And I know that sometimes people confuse a time budget with a schedule and feel like, oh, this is going to make me feel more crazy, because they've tried schedules as a way to fit all the things in instead of a way to see, what time is available or what is reasonable.
A time budget lets you see what can you say yes to, what does God have for you in a day or a week or a month, because he doesn't have more for you than the time that he's created. And so a time budget lets you see, oh, okay, God has given me this amount of time in a day, and what can I faithfully put there?
Yeah.
And then it makes you feel a lot of peace about what you're saying no to. Like you don't feel guilty, or at least I don't know. Maybe some people do still feel guilty for saying no to it, but you can at least logically think through, I don't have to feel guilty about this because, I have thought this through. I have seen the places that God's given me. And so a time budget is really, you still have to make schedules. I don't think you can live life and not have those. But those are completely different. A schedule doesn't tell you what you actually can do or not do. And a time budget shows you, this is where I can say yes, and this is where I can say no. And I can do it with peace of mind.
Well, thank you so much, Virginia Lee. This has been so helpful and some great ideas and strategies that I think all of us can implement and apply in our own ways and homes and situations. So thank you so much.
Yay, thanks for having me on.
A time budget really is a worthwhile tool, and I have numerous resources to help you make a time budget that works for you. You can go to simplyconvivial.com/time budget, all one word, simplyconvivial.com/time budget, to find the free resources that will help you put together a time budget that will improve your attitude and decrease your irritation. Check it out at simplyconvivial.com/time budget. And remember all the time to repent, rejoice, repeat.